manual does not, because y'all don't have it, but you don't have it. So half y'all have it, half y'all don't have it.
No, but typically, the teacher's manual and the student manual will have the same outline. We might just don't have the word on the light of the word or whatever, but we don't have nothing y'all got. Everything is different. Yeah, it might be a error in the printing company.
Okay. Because that's student right there. So everyone that has the teacher's manual, they'll be able to follow along with this, but the student manual, they won't be able to follow. They won't be able to follow along at this time. So who has God's protection and provision for Ishmael? You got it. You have it, sir?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to read that?
The strain of relationships in Abraham's household became apparent during the celebration of Isaac weaning, during the festivality. Sarah and Ishmael, now a teenager, mocking her son Isaac. Sarah was outraged. All the resentment she felt towards Hagar and Ishmael spilled out. She demanded that Abraham expel Hagar and Ishmael from the encampment. We must remember that even the slaves within the trivial group enjoyed the food, shelter, and protection of the camp. Now Sarah demanded that the vital means of survival be removed from Hagar and Ishmael. Sarah's motivation was clear. Ishmael must not share any part of her son Isaac's inheritance. This is especially heartbreaking when we consider that God had already made a promise to Sarah.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay.
And Abraham concerning the inheritance that would be given to Isaac.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So they didn't want. So Sarah it really bothered Sarah at his weaning. It really bothered Sarah when they were celebrating Isaac's weaning, and that was a big celebration at that time. I think they did it at a teenager. It doesn't give a specific number, but during the teenage years, that was a big it was a big event. There you go, an event. Okay. But Sarah really, they just could not stand each other. She was I think she may have been jealous of her. I'm not sure, but maybe because at that time, I think she had a child, and she didn't. So I think that was, or at that time, let's see. Okay, Sarah had a son, which was Isaac at this time, but let's see here. But Isaac's weaning, so Ishmael was a lot older than Isaac was. Okay. Now, let me read some more on here. Of course, the idea of sending Ishmael away made Abraham very unhappy, as he had no doubt grown to love his firstborn son. However, God instructed Abraham to hearken unto her voice. God reminded Abraham, "In Isaac shall thy seed be called." God reminded Abraham that Ishmael was the product of his and Sarah's impatience, while Isaac was the child of God's promise. Because God is the promise keeper, because God is a promise keeper, he offered Abraham this reassurance. And also, of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. So both the Muslims and the Christians have the right to say that Abraham is their father. But yet and still, the two has a great divide. And it is something that has been going on for thousands of years. And it's still going on to this very day, as we can see, as the war that is in Israel now being fought. And it has, and it is a very bloody war. They are seriously going at it. They say they're killing children, women. No one is spared. Everybody is, seriously
beheaded and cutting their heads off.
Say again?
They cutting their heads off of them.
Wow. Really?
They beheading, putting the women in church, baby.
The women too?
Beheading, yeah. Over there in Israel, where them people's what's the name of them people that cut them? Was it the Philistines or the what's the name of them people? Was it
You talking about Hamas? Hamas?
The God.
Hamas? Gaza is the place it's happening at. But Hamas is the one that's doing it.
Yeah, Hamas. But how you pronounce it?
Hamas.
Hamas, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Wow. So believe it or not, so this here that's happening now is a effect of what happened back then.
Teacher, I just want to say up here what he was reading was Sarah saw Ishmael and that teenager mocking her son Isaac. So I was reading, I was just reading the whole chapter, about at home. It was saying during that time, Ishmael was trying to attack Isaac. So that's what, in other words, they say he was trying to kill Isaac as a young child. And that's why she got so upset about it. That's why she wanted out of there. So it really started as a young teenager.
So what was it? What do you think, or can someone give you their own opinion of it? What do you think would cause brothers to want to have such hatred for each other? But both of them had the same dad.
They didn't have the
They
same
didn't
mom.
have their mom.
Just speak like.
You said in my opinion, our sons are closer to their mom. So, as growing up, if they see that their mom is unhappy, they kind of, they know, after a while, they know why they're unhappy, why she's unhappy. And then it's just, this is my mom, and this is her. That's my opinion. Why the two of them had hatred for each other.
So you think it's because that Hagar and Sarah had dislike for each other? And that caused the two boys to come up hating each other?
So we're talking like that. Kids kind of.
They feel what their parents go through, especially the mom. They feel it. Even if you don't tell them what is going on, you try to hide what's going on with them. But because the bond is so real, they can feel the energy from their mom. If their mom is hurting, especially most towards 4 children, if they feel like their mom is down in their spirit, they got a question. Even if she's wearing a smile, trying to cover up the hurt, they know their mom's demeanor. So they want to know what's going on with you, mom, why you down in your spirit. And she, I'm good. But no, they can feel it. They can feel it.
And so being a male, they feel like it's their responsibility to protect their mother?
Yeah.
And so that will cause them to fight their own brother?
They got different moms. Same dad, but different moms.
But their dad is their dad.
Yeah, but their mom is their mom.
All right, then. Well, we have a lot of this going on in society today.
Right now today.
Yeah, we have a lot of this going on in society today. That you have a lot of dad fathering children with different mothers, and you know, but yeah, that right there, you're feeling the reverberations of that truly down through the history of time, as from that history between Ishmael and Isaac is actually, you can feel it for what now is the United States is being drawn into it because they took United States citizens as hostages. I think they just let 2 go, but they still have, from my understanding, I think more of them over there that is being held, and now it has drawn the United States because the United States has took the side of Israel over the side of Palestine. Yeah. The continued presence of Hagar and Ishmael placed a psychological strain on Sarah. However, as she wanted the discomfort to end, Sarah's desire for a quick fix should remind us of ourselves. We want our problems and worries to end quickly. We often take actions that are not motivated by love, but by our own selfishness. It is in these dark and difficult times that we must draw near to God and seek His wisdom and strength. It is only when we follow direction from God that we can get through those dark and bitter experiences. As He did with Abraham and Sarah, God has made us promises. He has promised us freedom from stress and worry. Our realization of God's promises is predicated upon our obedience to Him. It would appear that Ishmael was a casualty in the domestic strife between his parents. However, verses 21 through 27 make it clear that God had not forgotten His promise to Abraham, and that He fully intended to protect and provide for Abraham's firstborn son. After Abraham expelled Hagar and Ishmael, they quickly ran out of water. Verse 17 lets us know that the omniscient God was aware of everything going on, including their distress. God heard Ishmael crying. Once again, God revealed Himself to Hagar and repeated His promise to provide her for her son. God assured Hagar again, make him a great nation. Here we see not only was God concerned about Ishmael's immediate needs, water and shelter, He had plans for Ishmael's future as well. God had no intention of allowing Abraham's firstborn son to die in the desert. He may not be the promised child, but we see that God loved Ishmael as much as He loved Isaac. In verse 19, we read that God opened her eyes and she saw a well of water. Distress often has a blinding effect on us. Everything appears dark when we are troubled, and often we cannot clearly see our situation. As God ministered to Hagar in the desert, she was able to see that she could not see before. A well. This is a powerful reminder that we must continue to praise God even when we are at our wits' end, thanking Him and praising Him as our eye-opener. Okay, concerning Ishmael's future, what did God promise to Abraham and to Hagar? Don't everybody answer at once. Say what? What's it called? Yes, ma'am.
Promise Ishmael, He give him a nation also.
Okay. All right. So He promised Ishmael that he would be the father of a great nation, right? So
Promise what?
He promised God would make Ishmael a great nation. Meaning, he promised that Ishmael, which was Ishmael, God promised that he would make him the father of a great nation, which is the Muslims. But now, so that right there, those two nations have been warring, those two nation factions have been warring with one another for a long time. And as far as the near future, as far as we know, they still warring with one another. And so many lives have been lost. What were some of the blessings that God promised Isaac? Okay, before we get into it, let me read this. In the opening of Genesis 26, there was a famine in the land. This led Isaac, now a grown man, to seek out a safe haven for his tribe in a larger city where they would have a better chance of finding a regular food source. Gerar is located on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, in the territory belonging to the Philistine people. Isaac would have needed the permission of Amalek, the Philistine king, to set up residency for his people. At some point, Isaac must have also considered moving his people forward into Egypt, because we read that God appeared to him and told him not to go there. Now, God transferred to Isaac the blessings that he had given to Abraham. It is important to note that the promises were conditional and were preceded by God's warning to Isaac not to travel south into Egypt. Instead, God told Isaac to settle in a land that he would provide for him. God then transferred the future promises that he had laid out for Abraham to Isaac. Not only would God be with Isaac, but he would bless him and give him a land for himself and his offspring. The continuation of God's promise to Isaac also included the establishment of the same covenant he had made with his father Abraham. God promised to multiply Isaac's offspring and give them the land. The culmination of the promise was that through Isaac, all of the nations would be blessed because Abraham had obeyed and kept God's commandments. Interestingly, we see in the entire remainder of the Bible that fulfillment of these promises made to Abraham and then to Isaac. Now, let me ask that question again. What were some of the blessings that God promised to Isaac? Say it again.
We'll say multiply.
Multiply?
Yeah. We got a reason to say it. If I heard you right, you said multiply seeds.
Yeah, well, yeah. That because
Because of Abraham.
what's that?
And then all the nations will be blessed because of Abraham.
So basically, what God did was He transferred the blessing from Abraham to Isaac. All that, everything because Isaac was his bloodline, He transferred it down. He said God would make His seed multiply as the stars in the heavens, and all the nations of the earth would be blessed. Would be blessed through Isaac's seed. So it was basically just passing it down. You know, your father have it, he passed down, the blessing to his son, and it just keeps going down. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Keep on going. Okay? Now, so the blessings that Isaac have, or because of his father, they will continue on down to the next, which would be Jacob in the lineage, in the bloodline. Do you think that Isaac could have done something to stop this, or do you think that it was like predetermined?
It was predetermined. It was nothing. It was stopped.
So everything that Isaac did, do you believe that was already predetermined?
What do you mean he did?
Well, Isaac was wanting to go down to Egypt, but God told him not to. So I guess God was to warn him not to do something that may have caused the blessings, or caused the blessings to not continue on.
Hey. So what was your question then?
Question is, do you think Isaac could have done something that would have stopped what was happening? So what you're saying is, do you believe, what I'm asking now, do you believe that everything was already preordained? So everything was, so do you believe everything now is already pre-planned?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. Okay. Don't turn this back on me. I'm asking you.
Then I'm asking you too.
What? But I'm just trying to get you. No, this is all,
So if God promised Abraham that, and he just agreed, we all agreed that it was passed down, what changed? It was just passed down.
So everything was.
And the lesson is about how we veer left from being impatient. But it's still, and that's how we learn, and that's how we understand the greatness of God, is when we steer left, and then when we finally get the blessing, or when we receive the blessing, we look back and say, man, I don't even know why I did this, because it just prolonged what God had for me. That's what the lesson's about. So
Teaching them how to sit still and wait on the promise of God. Because if He said it, He's going to do it. God's time is not our time, and sometimes we get so anxious and impatient for what God has promised us that we think we're helping Him, but all we're doing is prolonging what He has for us.
Okay.
oh, this is something to think about, right? I remember when Pastor was preaching, and he was saying that when we're praying for something, we just can't, we don't sit there and just out of hope it just happens. There's things that we have to do, right? So this is my thought. Sometimes you don't pray, you just pray and fast and wait on the Lord, right? And sometimes we think like, well, what ways can I do? Oh Lord, guide me, or what can I do? I just don't want to sit here and wait, right? That makes sense. So I'm thinking maybe that's back then that was him being impatient, because it was 10 years. So him being impatient, let's do this with Hagar. That was the wrong move.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I think that to answer your question, we have to skip down to Jacob and Esau, because it was not God's will for the thing Jacob did, but the promise was going to Jacob, and it was foretold before they were ever born that Jacob, was going to fall on Jacob. So his mother put him up to steal Esau's birthright and all like that, his blessings and all that. That wasn't God's plan, so he couldn't get out of God's will. He went down and Laban, maybe he had sown, I think him served 14 years for his daughters and so forth. That was not in God's plan. But then it reverted back to God's plan when he come out of it, left Laban and went back to his father's house. And on the way back, Laban wanted to hurt him. God gave Laban a dream. Don't be careful how you speak to her. Be careful how you do anything. So God's will be done.
Okay. So, and everything was good. Everyone is really involved in this discussion. But now, let's take a step back for a second. Let's look back at something. Was it in God's will that he when he made the promise to Sarah that she would have a child in her old age, a year's time, in a year previous that he told her she would do this, was it in God's will for her to convince her husband to have sex with his concubine to have another child?
No.
No. That was of her own doing.
Yeah,
So
that was
my question then is, can anything happen that is out of God's will?
That was out of God's will.
So then, wait a
But
minute.
it didn't prevent God's will.
So God just used something that man did to get his will done.
No, his will going to be done anyway.
Okay.
So when man does something out of his will, God's gonna it's gonna like horseshoe. It's gonna go out the way the man wanted it to go, but it's gonna come right back to where God wanted you to be.
Kind of like, I go back to this, kind of like with, I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name. Kind of like, Jonah. Jonah did not want to do God's will. But the way God framed it, the way God changed the circumstances, it ended up doing what God had wanted it to do. So, in a sense there, we all have wills. We all have our own will, but God's will overrules our will.
Not necessarily. Since you said that, it made me look at it a different way. His will didn't overrule Jonah's will. But he had spoken of things, and what God said has to be done. And he said, go down to Nineveh and preach. And Jonah's will was not to go there. But God gave him a reason to change his mind by letting that fish swallow it up. And while he was in that fish, he changed his mind. And he was willing then to do what God said do.
All right, then. All right. Wow.
Well,
Okay. Well,
once we understand that God is sovereign, I mentioned that in my prayers sometimes, that I know He's sovereign, but that's patience and understanding. Sometimes do it when He wants to. In the Bible, there's a lot of times Jesus did things that He was great.
okay. So you said Jesus did what?
I was saying God is sovereign, and I was saying, I say mentioned stories in the Bible where Jesus is sovereign.
Okay. All right then. Okay. Well, time is ended up. We got discussing it, and time our session is about over. Would anyone like to add anything? Make a comment? Any questions?
Okay, I like this. Which that lesson 8. I mean, it's 8 that your student will know that there are too many people who feel they are not blessed because of how or where they happen to be born.
Too many people feel they're not blessed because of where they're born?
Because of how and where they happen to be born.
So how does that work? I mean, how?
Well, you know, some people just not happy. You know, just like the lesson today. You know, they have they parents. You know, they have different things. You know, they don't have the same mom, same that different conflicts. Sometimes it still bothers the children.
Different circumstances.
People, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
Because of way and how things happen.
uh-huh.
Even because they control, but
Right.
they still have issues about it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can't control how we're born.
Right.
We can't control where we're born. We can't control when we're born, and we can't control who we're born to.
Right.
So that's our. But a lot of times, unfortunately, we can't control that. But we have to continue to
Accept
we
it.
have to accept it. I mean, you can't choose your parents.
Right.
just like the parents can to the kids. So that's something that we're faced with, and that's just another something that we have to deal with in this life. And with that being said, let us go to where's that mother in this view book? What's that the ending prayer? You know?
Now I go to page.
It's on page
69.
no, in our book.
Yeah, in our book, in our book.
It's on page 103.
Oh, okay, there. Okay, great.
Ours is 56.
Okay.
Now
Okay.
it's-
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's different, some have a student, some have a teacher, man. Dear Father, thank you for choosing us. You chose us before the foundation of the world to be your children and to receive your promises. We praise you because you chose us even when we were sinners and your enemies. Father, help us to walk in obedience to your word and to live up to the promise you have given us. In Jesus' name we pray. We pray. Amen. Okay. Hey. Hey.